Today, we explore the fundamental question of who or what am I? Almost everybody identifies with their body and with their minds. The more intellectual you are, the more educated you are, probably the more you identify with your mind. More stupid people tend to identify with their body. But smart people are especially screwed up because they tend to identify with their mind, especially the inner voice inside. And with meditation, the key is just to watch everything, observe everything, feel everything, but don't identify with it. Just relax and let everything just do itself. I know the first many years that I entered spirituality, it was with all kinds of concepts. I imagined I was like the Buddha after leaving home, traveling the world and visiting various teachers and trying various practices. But the various practices only lead to certain mind states, whether it's utter stillness of not moving at all, or some other thing like controlling energies within the body. Sitting in full lotus with your rear slightly raised on a meditation cushion, with your hands like this in your lap, and imagining butter on the top of your head melting and flowing downwards through the body and accumulating in your hands in your lap like this, like it's a bowl being filled. And that's in order to drop your attention from your head into your body. There are so many different types of meditation. You can concentrate on your breath, incoming through your nose, or the expansion and contraction of your diaphragm, or the rising and lowering of your chest with your breath. That's kind of meditation on the breath. Or you can sit and try to stop the mind from moving and get in a still mind experience. That was my first belief I thought is you had to have a completely quiet mind. So I use willpower to stop the thoughts by refusing to attend to thoughts as they rose and just block them out. You can try that. Whenever a thought comes, you just push it away. I did that for maybe 6 months. And it really screwed up my mind. My mind just didn't work anymore. I couldn't think if I tried. It wasn't natural. My brain became solid. Felt like that. And it felt like I was not allowing any thoughts to come into my mind. And that's the effect of deliberately stopping the mind. And after I found out I could sort of ruin my mind by stopping it from thinking, I stopped doing that. And over a few months of not doing that anymore, I was able to entertain thoughts again. However, it was a long time before I was just able to watch my thoughts, observe them, and also observe everything else that was happening inside my body when I was sitting in meditation, especially if coming into a monastic setting like at a Zen center during sesshin. And something happened. When I was in sesshin for the first 3 days, we sat very strongly in either half lotus or full lotus. And I was unable to do full lotus back then. And sitting was very painful for me in the knees and the hips and in my back. But I was able to sit very quietly without moving. But I was in immense pain, especially at Mount Baldy. We were at, 5,000 to 6,000 feet. And the food we ate gave me a lot of gas. All vegetarian. Besides my back hurting and my knees hurting and my hips hurting, my stomach would get bloated. I'd feel very full. I was miserable. But usually on the third day, something would happen. Some event would happen. When suddenly my whole body relaxed. And I could feel a new experience, which was my mind, it seemed, dropped out of my head and rapidly descended into my body, so that my head would go silent and I would go from being a thinker to experiencing the totality of my being and feeling. And it's hard to tell you what I felt then, because my body would disappear too. And I would like become invisible to myself. And instead, there was just a oneness where I became one with everything I could hear outside. The wind blowing through the trees, and Mount Baldy was at 5,000 or 6,000 feet. And the wind made a lot of noise going through the 100-foot trees outside. So I became one with the wind, or one with sounds like birds singing, or airplanes going overhead. I was no longer identified with my body, but my hearing experiences, because I couldn't feel my body anymore. My body and outside the body became identical. I couldn't separate them. So I was totally in the oneness experience. And Roshi gave me a koan at the beginning. How do I realize God when looking at a fir tree? Because we were surrounded by fir trees. He said it didn't matter what kind of tree. Just how do you realize God when looking at a fir tree? Some people were pretty ingenious in their answers when we talked about it, in between sessions, if we talked about it. One guy, we wore skirts then, black skirts, called hakamas. They were long down to the ankles. And he went into Sanzen, the meeting with the Roshi, where he questioned you on your koan. How do you realize God when looking at a fir tree? And one guy had brought in a fairly large tree branch. And he said, my koan is, how do I realize God when looking at a fir tree? And he whipped out the branch from under his hakama and showed Roshi his branch of the tree. Well, Roshi hit him with the stick. Wrong answer. He was being a smartass. For some reason, I was able to find the correct answer. On the third or fourth day, this is after my body relaxed entirely and just relaxed into nothingness, because my body wasn't there. And all that I was aware of was the world of sounds and feeling around me. The sounds of the wind, sounds of birds and the airplanes, or people coughing, or somebody getting hit with a stick. And there'd be a monk who'd go around the zendo. And if he saw anybody falling asleep or moving, he'd stand in front of them, bow, and then hit them once on each shoulder. So I learned very quickly to wear lots of layers of clothes. And it was quite cold. It was winter on a mountain at 5,000 or 6,000 feet. So it got quite cold. I think one time it was 6 below zero. And there were no windows. Windows were made of paper, just like a Japanese zendo. Then I noticed something else is over a period of days, our meditation got stronger and stronger. The first 2 or 3 days were very hard. My body had been in great pain, especially my back. And all of a sudden, at some point, my body relaxed and I became totally comfortable. And my attention would no longer focus on the pain in my body. It was just on the totality of oneness. And sitting became very pleasurable. It was complete peace, no thoughts. And I thought, aha, this is it. You know, I can't even remember what answer I gave him. I'm not going to tell you anyway, because you might be getting that koan sometime, somewhere. Especially if you go to Mount Baldy, because all of the people there studied under Sasaki Roshi. They probably all got the same koans. Sasaki used to say that people thought that there was only a couple of hundred koans. Said, in fact, there were thousands of koans. Most of them were checking koans to check your original discovery of a certain class of koans. And he said, he answered them all. And if he could do it, you can do it. So I ask you, not how do you realize God when looking at a fir tree, but what are you? How do you discover the answer to that question? Do you read Castaneda's books? Journey, Don Juan? Do you read Philip Keplo's books, 3 Pillars of Zen? Do you read some other Zen books or books on Buddhism and meditation? Where do you find the answer to what you are? Do you find the answer by stilling your mind until it doesn't move anymore? And your mind gets dumb as a rock. So let me tell you, my discovery was over the years. Meditation is learning how to ignore the mind and just sit quietly in your own presence, your own body, not ignoring the world or embedding yourself in the world. Just relax. And experience everything as rawly and thoughtlessly as you can, but not by holding your mind still. But the best way I found over the years is to learn how to just watch the mind dispassionately. And watching that your mind just speaks to you as if you were an idiot. It's always giving directives. Do this, do that. Listen to this, listen to that. Move or don't move. Relax or don't relax. Watch your mind or don't watch it. And then you can read endless books by various teachers and masters over the years about the koans they answered. In wonder. What secret is buried in all those koans? And sometimes you may even question why you're trying to figure these things out. Why don't you just stop sitting there trying to figure out what you're supposed to do? And instead, just go to bed or get up and have something for breakfast. But why are you wasting time watching your mind, watching your body? And I'll tell you, part of it is it just feels good to feel still. It feels good to just attend to your body as how it feels from the inside. So you step away totally from seeing or hearing and just embed yourself in feeling with your body in meditation. And if thoughts come up, rather than stopping the mind, you stop attending to the mind. Just let the mind go, but don't follow the thoughts. And instead, just feel the totality of your being. Now, after a while, instead of becoming a deliberately effortful thing, you can just sort of learn to relax into your body without following the thoughts. And after a while, just not following the thoughts, your mind gets still and you feel wonderful. You feel one with the plane flying overhead. You can actually feel yourself flying through the air. And you kind of marvel because all of the pain in your body seems to disappear all at once on the third day or so. And then you can sit like a mountain without moving, totally immersed in the totality of beingness, both inner and outer. But you really don't experience your body anymore because it's become so relaxed. There's nothing in it that bothers you. There's no pain in your back or in your neck or in your knees or in your hips. You've entered oneness with no mind whatsoever. You just become the totality of everything. And it's a marvelous new experience. But then I began wondering, not while I was in it, because I just enjoyed the experience so much, but afterwards, especially after I left Mount Baldy, what's the point? What end am I supposed to achieve by doing this? What is enlightenment? And I just pursued the oneness experience over and over again through sitting. I never answered that question. You know, sitting now in stillness, listening to my voice. If you stop paying attention to my voice and instead just experienced your body with your eyes closed, how the hell would you describe that experience to someone else? Just being immersed in your own beingness. Would you describe your energy or your body feeling like a bundle of energies with tingling inside? Because that's what it sometimes feels to me, is my whole body feels like still energy that boils and seethes. But my mind doesn't move. I just feel this kind of pleasurable sensation throughout my body of quivering energy that fills my body with delight. But then I would ask myself afterwards, maybe a year afterwards or 2 years, so what? What do I learn from that? That not following the mind is pleasurable? That becoming empty-minded and have my attention expand to the totality of my feeling being? What's that all about? What's to be gained from that? What's the ultimate purpose of that? And there is no ultimate purpose except to experience yourself as beingness in the moment. and experience the totality of your being in the now. And how wonderful that feels to be so open and so immersed in your own self-experience. And what do I mean by self-experience? I don't know. I can't describe that at all. But it's, I guess, if I were to describe it, it's having a still mind that you're not paying attention to, even if occasionally a thought arises. And then instead, you're focused on the totality of your beingness in a body. You feel the muscles throughout your body. They're relaxed, but very alive. There's a feeling of relaxed and pent up energy throughout your body. And then after a while, that disappears and you become nothingness, just emptiness. And with that comes great expansion. You become one with the world around you, at least the sounds of the world, the wind and the trees, air moving through the body or around the body in the room, drafts hitting your face, the sound of someone coughing or moving, the sound of the kiyosaka hitting somebody on the shoulder. You're aware of everything. And you notice you don't mind the cold anymore. You don't even feel the cold. And after each period of sitting, there's walking meditation called kinhin. And you walk in file out of the zendo, outside, around the camp, cabins. You go around a few times and you come back in. But you notice each day how people become more and more used to the cold. And after 3 or 4 days or so, they don't even mind walking barefoot in the snow instead of having on shoes or sandals or something, because their feet are cold and they want to avoid the feeling of cold. And instead, they're indifferent to it. And when they're sitting, you can see before you go into meditation, if the first few days they're wearing heavy clothes and jackets underneath their hakama. But around the 4th or 5th day, they don't look so puffed out anymore. They're not wearing as many clothes. They're indifferent to the cold or the heat. The body just feels so utterly comfortable. No tension anymore. That all left on the 3rd day. First 3 days could be pretty painful each time, all over again, like you never learned how to sit painlessly from the time before, the sesshin before. Each time, it comes as a shock to sit so much every day in silence. There's only silence. There's no talking during sesshin. Everything is controlled by clackers or bells or gongs. So there's no need to talk, especially during food times, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And everything is passed in total silence. So you get a chance to listen and watch. Listen and watch. Feel yourself. Feel the world. And over the years, you learn how to be aware without the intrusion of mind. You no longer have to block it. You no longer have to deliberately stop the mind flow, the thoughts, because you no longer identify with the mind. The mind can do anything it wants, and you pay it no heed whatsoever because you know you're not your mind. When you used to think you were the mind, that spirit, that talking within you, I used to identify that as the center of your being, but no longer. Now you identify yourself with your sense of being, your beingness. And you certainly can't describe that because the words haven't been invented. That describes your experience of self in rest. There are no thoughts when you're really at rest in yourself. It's really, 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 really hard to explain. But my body, for example, now seems very relaxed. And I can feel into it. I can feel my head almost like it's immersed in my chest. And my stomach and hips below that, my legs below that. But to feel like I'm a large balloon with a lot of pleasurable energy, locked in non-motion, sort of still energy throughout my body. But my body being sort of amorphous. It no longer has the shape of a human body, but it's more like a balloon with that energy in, the pent-up energy that's pleasurable throughout that balloon. And outside of that balloon is the totality of the world. And there's the contact point, which is my skin against the chair. My skin of my calves against the chair. Back of my thighs against the chair. My butt against the chair, my back against the chair. My body feels really relaxed, but it hasn't disappeared like it used to at Mount Baldy, sitting in formal meditation, because sitting in formal meditation is a very deep meditation where almost everything disappears except consciousness, held in stillness. So I challenge you. How would you describe yourself, your self-experience right now, sitting in yourself, to someone else? Maybe somebody else that's not a meditator. And try to explain to them what it's like, your experience of yourself, just resting in yourself. Maybe with your mind talking a little, but you're absolutely paying no attention to it because you notice, you know that the mind just babbles. You're not having deep thoughts. You're not thinking about the meaning of life or about God. You just feel the stillness. And your mind can babble on, but you don't care because you don't identify with the body. It's like your mind is like a TV in the next room. That's not too loud. And you can comfortably ignore and just rest in your own self-experience, however deep that is or however extensive it is. Whether the feeling of your body has dropped away totally and you're just the oneness of everything, or whether you still feel the totality of your body vis-a-vis the environment around you. You have all of these different kinds of experiences. And there's nothing you can do really to make any sense of it. It's just different experiences. So how do you describe yourself to another? How does Vijay describe himself to Mark or to Chris or to Eric? How does Rekha describe herself to Ian or Cassie? They're together on my screen, right next to each other. Rekha should look to her left, and Ian should look to your right, and you'll be able to see through Cassie's head, Rekha on the other side, or not. Isn't it interesting to try to feel the limits of your own being, where you drop off and the experience of the outer world comes into being? I'll repeat what I said last satsang. If you're miserable as an individual, you'll still be miserable in relationship. Happiness does not come from relationships. It comes from cats. Happiness comes from cats. Anybody that loves cats knows what I'm talking about. The most natural beings that you can possibly have. Does anybody have any questions? Or does anybody want to say something? Something deep, something highly intelligent to show how brilliant you are? Or do you all want to avoid saying anything so that you conceal your ignorance about anything? That's what I tend to do now. I stay in the back of the room. Did I hear a voice? No, I guess.
Edgy, I'll usurp the position and displace whoever was hoping to ask a question use for now.
Mark
How do
wants
you
to display how intelligent he is by asking an intelligent question. You have an intelligent question?
Well, you said, how do you describe beingness or the totality of self? And I have my approach, which would be to explain it by what's no longer there.
To what?
To explain the totality of self and beingness by what is usually there but is no longer there.
Okay.
So, for example, the whole encumbrance of being an incarnated human being with its usual distractions and compulsions and all that, stresses, anxieties, it's pretty much all gone. Like the whole burden of human existence is gone, leaving just the pure self, which was behind that experience the whole time, but which was buried under all kinds of crude layers and of identification with the processes of the mind body and all that. So you talk about an endless source of peace and fulfillment and space. And it's just a very peaceful, blissful place with lots of, and I feel the absence of my human self or my body, my mind all the time. So the other thing is, when you talked about yourself being like a balloon, I thought that was interesting because I've talked about my experience of being like a large soap bubble. When you soap bubble, you see the moving rainbow patterns in the sun, and the whole thing kind of wobbles in the air. Kind of like that, very like ephemeral and, very thin and very fluid and beautiful. I feel like that sometimes. So that's it.
Does anybody feel like a small puppy dog? Or a French dirigible? Or a pound cake? Does anybody have any unique experiences of themselves? Reka doesn't know what the hell to say. Jay wants to tell us how wonderful the experience is at Satsang. I have no idea what Nicola would want to say, or VJ. VJ, what do you say?
I'm sorry, I missed the question, Ed. What did you ask?
That's good. No need to go any deeper than that.
BJ took the words right out of my mouth.
So we have the smartass Mark, the dumbass VJ, and Jay, who concurs with both. I urge you all to try meditation. If you can go on a meditation retreat to a Zen center or something like that, It's very good. But I'll tell you, spirituality is filled with so many different practices and types of meditation. You've got Tibetan Buddhism that's filled with so many different kinds of meditation and objects and mandalas, and each having a separate purpose. You have the Japanese, the shikantaza, which is doing nothing, just sitting, which is what I mostly practice. But you've got people that fool around with the breath, breathing in one nostril and then in another, letting it out. Others watch their diaphragm going up and down. Others feel their bodies or whatever. You can play with it a million times. There's no ending the amount of ways you could play with your experience of self, either in meditation or in not meditation in everyday life. And how you practice meditation can vary so much. Some, like Maxie, like to lay down. Michael, too, now. I don't like to practice laying down because it's so easy to go to sleep, but I do it anyway in the morning when I wake up. I watch the waking up experience and how consciousness comes into being. And I can play with deliberately going back to sleep again and waking up and going back to sleep again and waking up and passing between these two states. I do it by, it's sort of like just tuning out from the experience of being awake and allowing yourself to not have that experience anymore. And in another way, it feels like I'm slipping down from my head into my body and disappearing in silence into my experience of my beingness in my body. But I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun when you can do it. You can practice by, when you first get up in the morning, not to get up right away, but to lay in bed. And watch the process of waking up. And to see if you can reverse it by just forgetting the existence around you, of a world around you. You forget it. And you gradually slip out of consciousness into darkness. And it's always so pleasurable to be able to experience sleep while yet there's some awake consciousness there to watch your body and your mind. It's all about being able to observe without the interference of the mind, that you are in charge and the mind is no longer in charge. It's strictly a servant, and you determine when you can use the mind and need the mind, rather than have your mind be dominant and not be able to still your mind, because your mind seems to have a mind of its own. So what you learn to do is just not follow the mind. Let it do what it wants to. And it becomes like a radio in the background. It just doesn't bug you anymore. It doesn't bother you. You can be alive and aware of your own beingness and just have the mind in the background, so to speak. While in the foreground, you're experiencing the totality of self, especially in the body, and the experience of the energies of your body. and the absence of tension in your body. When that happens, when does the tension in your body suddenly disappear? Sometimes it disappears when you fall asleep, and sometimes it disappears before you fall asleep, and you become a witness of the arising and disappearance both of the mind and of waking consciousness. But at no point will you ever really be able to describe it using terms that other people will understand, because that disappearance of mind and tension is a meditation-specific experience. I mean, it can happen in everyday life, and it does happen to people. And you may call it spontaneous enlightenment, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just the disappearance of the priority of thought and of mind. The mind becomes secondary, and you predominate as the totality of your beingness. And that's how you approach everything, with the totality of your beingness rather than with the mind. It becomes an exercise in just relaxing your body and your mind. And whatever comes up, you're there, just observing, either observing feelings, sensations, observing your mind. But usually when you're a good meditator, your body's very relaxed, and it's almost like being asleep with the total relaxation of sleep, but at the same time aware of how relaxed your body is and how relaxed your mind is. It's just there, sort of in the background. And you don't pay much attention to it anymore. Your mind has become totally subservient to your beingness rather than dominating your beingness. Does that make any sense to you, Rika? What don't you understand? Please explain carefully what you don't understand so I can make you understand it. Just kidding. Eddie, who are you?
He says, I don't know.
I didn't ask you, Mark. I'll ask Bernadette because she smiled. Was it a smile of knowing, or was it a smile of unknowing?
Unknowing.
Good. Vesselina, come back and answer that question. Or have you walked off now? You're playing with your cat somewhere. I think she's gone away. She's just pretending to be here now. Really, let me tell you, this is how I approached meditation over the years of examining thoughtless mind, my experience of self as a body, as being aware, as being conscious, and making all these distinctions about being asleep and all of this, just watching and attending to my consciousness and what happens to my consciousness throughout the day. and the place that the external world plays in my consciousness, and the place awareness of myself as being aware of the world. And what does that mean? And whether I just after a while just do it without paying much attention to it anymore, because I've attended to it in the past and have experienced it so many times. And I know that you can't really describe it to who you were 10 years before or 15 years before, because you've changed so much. Silence of the mind is something you always love to experience, because in that silence of the mind, you as beingness comes to fore. And that's your real self, so to speak. The experience of your body, your mind, your consciousness, fully awake, and you can explore it and feel what it's like. And then even watch the mind try to get in on it and hog the limelight. And then how you can just sit quietly and let it slip away. Playing with the mind in order to understand yourself, because in a way, it's true. The self is what you usually don't identify yourself with. It's the absence of the pain in the body and the absence of the priority of the mind. Its stillness and its emptiness and its fullness of the energies of the body and the energies of beingness held in abeyance when your mind is not directing everything. It's forgetting the mind. While the mind still operates, you just don't pay much attention to it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So we've been talking a lot about mind and not, and I feel like I can sink into my body, my mind gets quiet, but what I'm finding is in my feelings in my chest that seem to be blocking my access to beingness. It feels like I hit a rock or something in my chest. I just can't seem like I can't feel. Sometimes I just can't feel my beingness because I hit this anxiety or tension and pressure in my chest, and I'm not sure what to do.
Do it over and over and over.
Just
And
okay.
feel, especially the tension. Go into it. Observe it. And gradually it will disappear
Okay.
until one day it disappears altogether. Because it'll disappear into the totality of your beingness. Those special blockages, those special hindrances are kind of a gateway to real emptiness. So enjoy it and don't fight it. Just enjoy that feeling of the blockage and let it take you over and bury yourself in it. Let it take you over and control you and immerse you till you're swimming in that blockage. If you can do that. If you can do that, you're a wise man and advanced. So do it as a practice so that someday it won't bother you anymore. There may be new ones, but you know how to deal with it.
I'm feeling it right now. I'm just like, it's just overwhelming me.
Just keep feeling it. Now, talk to me about what's happening as you're doing it.
It feels so enveloping. I'm crying. It's just so it feels so powerful and so I'm just feeling so absorbed in it. Sadness.
Chris is demonstrating what it's like to be able to work on these things. You just sink into them, no matter how obnoxious it feels or how painful it feels. Because I used to, when I started sitting at Mount Baldy, have a great deal of pain in my upper back, around my heart. And it hurt so much I couldn't not pay attention to it. And then at some point around the third day, all of the pain throughout my body would disappear. And I would become totally loose and sitting with 100% perfection in sitting, so that I was never hit by the stick over the shoulder because I never deviated. It was wonderful to open up entirely with a totally relaxed body, relaxed to the extent that my body disappeared. And I became one with the silence of the room or the sound of the wind or the sound of the bird or the sound of somebody coughing. I no longer had an operational mind. I was just experience. And the mind may arise later and think about that experience and what it means. And should I try to get there again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What now, Chris? Good. Well, today I talked about meditation and the struggles meditating. And actually, the learning experience of meditation goes on for years. You'll have different phases and different things bothering you and become questionable. You really take, 20 years to become a really good meditator. And there's so many things that can be learned about yourself, and it's not learned in terms of something you can talk about. It's like sinking into your own beingness and discovering different caves or rooms or experience types within that self that you're exploring and dropping into. And that itself becomes a different kind of experience of how you enter nothingness. Does it feel like you're dropping into your body and expand that way? Everybody usually has a feeling of leaving their head and their head becoming empty or their head becoming full so that there's no thoughts inside. And then the thoughts come back and niggling at the borders of your mind until it's time to come out of meditation, and then you sort of wake up out of it. It's just very interesting to watch yourself and your experience of yourself and your experience of the world and how that changes throughout the day. How that changes when you enter meditation. How that changes when you wake up in the morning and what happens. Can you feel the energies inside of yourself ascending from in your chest or your gut in the morning when you wake up, and then full consciousness coming to you, and play with it and go back to sleep. Play with it. Play with your experience of yourself and the world around you. Watch the boundaries. Is your skin a boundary between your inner self and your outer self? Or is it always that way? Or does it differ from day to day? Or is there any constancy whatsoever? It's really hard to find constancy or anything you can speak about as being constant. Everything's always changing. Your experience is always changing. And how difficult it is to find anything you can articulate. And even if you can articulate it now, will it be there a week from now or a month from now? Or was it there 2 months ago in the past? All of these things you'll witness and know. And it changes you. It changes you on an unconscious level because you're observing phenomena and you're learning about the nature of your own self-experience and your own experience of the outer world and the other person. I love you all. I wish you well in your trip. And get a cat if you don't already have one. And watch that cat. Make friends with that cat. Love the cat or dog. But cats are more intriguing to me. Dogs are pretty open. Cats are mysterious. When a cat loves you, they come up and touch their nose to your face and rub against your leg. A dog jumps all over you and dribbles and froths at the mouth, wags its tail, sniffing intrusively. A cat will just come and sit down next to you and touch you with its back and then go to sleep right next to you, right next to your leg or your arm. I used to have a cat that I'd be at a computer and it'd come up and rest on my hand. And if I didn't move my hand, it'd go to sleep on my hand, even when it's on the keyboard. It's very hard to type with a sleeping cat on your hand and you don't want to wake it up. But look how advanced you become spiritual. You don't want to hurt a butterfly anymore because you just like the presence of another life form close to you. I love you all. Take care. Think of questions to ask me next time. Bye-bye.